All right. It's time we talk about it. The American Society of Magical Negroes is been released in theaters. Something you should know about this movie. It was sitting on a shelf for 2 years. I was unaware of this, but I spoke to a friend who actually was at the screening with us last night, who saw the movie more than 2 years ago, and remarked that, well, they actually didn't change anything about the film at all. Like, it's the same as he saw 2 years ago, which tells me that they didn't make any changes. They thought that, like, all right, that's it.
Well, what they're saying is that it's as timely today as it was 2 years ago.
I don't know that that's true, but
you know what? To Alan's point, and look, this movie was all kinds of bad, but I think to Alan's point, I think it would have played better 2 years ago than it does right now. Like, I'm not saying it would have done well. I'm just saying it seems dated. Am I wrong? Like, it felt dated, right?
I honestly, it didn't feel dated to me. It felt like it still hits on the conversation we're having. I think 2 years ago, 2022, we were just getting back to theaters for the most part.
True, but that was also like almost the height of woke. You know what I mean? Like,
it was a year after the whole George Floyd demonstrations. When everyone was getting canceled and the black box. So it's a year after that. It was much tamer than I thought it would be, but it's still, the message is still there. I mean, it's CRT, but it's CRT, but buried just a little bit within the story.
Well, let's get into the basics of the story. If you've seen the trailer or not, I'll tell you a little bit more. Character named Aaron, played by Justice Smith, he's an artist who made a piece of art with yarn. He's sort of a gangly, skinny wimp who, I mean, he may as well have been the person that you saw in the old comic strips where the strong man kicks sand in his face. That's this guy, Aaron. That's his character. And he's got very low self-esteem, which would make him potentially relatable to anyone. He has an encounter on the street, which could have gone badly, where a young woman is confused at the ATM and her boyfriend shows up being all, I'm going to save you. And a character named Roger comes in, played by David Alan Greer. And he's a nice older black gentleman who kind of solves the situation and calms things down. Aaron then is invited to be a part of the American Society of Magical Negroes, which is kind of like, I don't know, it's like Hogwarts, but for magical black people, which is a legitimate and real trope that has appeared in so many movies.
No, Chris, you're missing a key part of that. Magical black people whose job is it to keep white people happy.
Right.
Otherwise, we'll die if we don't keep white people happy.
Yeah. If white people aren't happy, and the white tears, there's like a little meter that kind of shows up. They'll, yes, bad things happen to black people when white people aren't happy or white people are not comforted. Yes. So he's whisked off and suddenly becomes part of this society. And he has magical powers, although we only ever really see him use it like twice in the whole movie. He snaps his fingers, a computer appears, he snaps his fingers and then transports himself to New York City. So he really doesn't even use his powers. His powers are he just calms people down. But Aaron has very low self-esteem. He's teamed up with a guy. I don't even remember what the name of the character is. The buddy
is Matt. I think it's Matt.
What's that?
I think it was Matt. I'll look it up.
Yeah. Okay. In any case, his buddy actually has a crush on a girl that Aaron already has a crush on, which kind of sucks. And it's his job to kind of like make this romance happen. It goes into romantic comedy land. The character that's played by the so-called work friend, it's like he's like an a-hole out of an 80s teen movie, like incredibly unlikable. I found him to be like caricature as are most of the white people in the movie are just complete caricatures. So, and I was even saying to Dante before the film, it's like, look, if they make jokes about white people and they're funny and they're just funny jokes, who cares? But most of the comedy in this movie totally falls flat. And there is a
here's a question though. Was it a comedy?
Right.
There were satirical moments that people in my theater laughed at.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way I can explain it.
There are legit some funny jokes in there, like
when they were making fun of white people laughed in my theater.
Well, the one thing is, there's one line I thought that got the biggest laugh out of the audience was, "Oh my, he colonized my crush," because it was kind of making fun of that colonizing term and how people overuse that, and then it was good alliteration. I'm a fan of alliteration. Okay, so if you see the trailer, you know
Sorry, the guy's name is Jason. The guy's name is Jason. So
Jason. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jason is let's just say he's just not a good friend, but he sees Aaron as a friend, right? I mean, it's a typical romantic triangle. He has to do the right thing and basically get the lead actress. What's her name?
Lizzie.
Lizzie is the character.
Yeah,
but he likes her too. So it's like a love triangle. But if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, everyone in the society will lose their powers. Now, I have questions, and I want to hear, first of all, just to encapsulate, this is a terribly thought out film. I think if there was actually a society of, quote, magical Negroes, why do they give a crap what white people think about anything? Wouldn't they be going off doing other things in the world if they actually had those magical powers? So that was sort of like top of mind with me, is like, couldn't they do a lot better than giving a crap what white people think about anything? Like how is that?
But Chris, you're missing the point. If we don't keep white people happy, we'll die.
Right. That's at least what the movie says. But this movie this movie seems so out of touch. And there's this whole speech at the end, and we have to have like almost a separate conversation about that speech. That seems like it's completely ignored a lot of history, and it's about kind of like the history of now of a certain type of person in college that feels nervous around white people.
Yeah, guess what? That's the Barbie speech.
It's the Barbie speech in this movie. It was so like out of, and the thing is I can imagine that the people involved in making this movie, and I mean the white executives that said, yeah, definitely make this. They didn't want to question anything, and they didn't want to give any feedback or notes out of fear that like they may come off as racist.
But what's weird is that the guy who wrote and directed this movie is not black.
Right.
So
what?
You know. Here's the thing. I realized this when I woke up this morning. This wasn't a black movie. This was a Gen Z movie.
Yes.
This had nothing to do with black people at all. And I guarantee you, black people are not going to like this film. They're just
not. He's not black.
So again, it begs the question, and I kept asking it yesterday, who is this movie for?
Yes. Yeah.
Who is this movie for?
Sorry, I got a point. He could be black.
I think he may be mixed. I'm looking on IMDb.
He's mixed at best.
But he's a
Well,
I mean, even the lead character in the film, played by Justice. Yeah.
His mother is white. He says his mother is white.
Yeah. Justice Smith. Yeah, he says my mother's white. So okay. But like this movie seemed tone deaf. And I'm all for like, let's be funny and let's make jokes about our current state of race in the United States. But let's be honest. The thing is, comedy comes from honesty. This movie, I believe, is dishonest. And you're right, Dante. This movie is about Gen Z and the sort of the weird, this is a sound weird thing to say, soft racism of Gen Z.
Yeah.
Everything is about identity. And it's more Gen Z than anything else. I mean, look, the best thing making fun of the quote magical Negro trope, that was done by Key and Peele in one of their, I mean, first of all, there are so many great Key and Peele sketches. Those guys were so in tune, so like knew the zeitgeist. No surprise that Jordan Peele, is such a prominent director at the level he's at. Go watch their Magical Negro Key and Peele sketch.
Oh, it's so much better. It's so much better.
It's so funny because it's making fun of the trope, how dumb it is. And it's two, quote, magical Negroes fighting. And they get in this big like wizard battle and it's hilarious. And it's like, oh yeah, that is a dumb trope that we've seen in a million movies. And it also is kind of stupid.
You know what? My thing is, all is forgiven if it's funny. This was not funny, man. Like we were like, I don't know about you, but I was cringing so hard I was making claw marks in the on the sides of my seat because it was just so bad. And you know what it felt like? It literally felt like I was reading a TL of Black Twitter.
Oh, wow.
Everything I heard in that movie, I have read on Black Twitter.
Yeah.
By the way, there's a documentary at South by Southwest called Black Twitter.
Oh God.
Oh, see, I would actually watch that. I would watch it. Wait, I have to change our arrangement so that it's okay, good. I'm at the bottom now because we're just ranking in terms
of you there. Are you happy
wait,
now?
You're above me though, Alan, right? Okay.
I mean, I could have just used my magic, Chris, but I was going to leave that up to you. But I want you to be happy. Otherwise, I'll die.
Yeah. Oh, I don't feel safe if Chris is not happy. Hey, I'll tell you my biggest problem with the movie right from the start. I don't buy the premise of the movie, and when you don't buy the premise of the movie, it makes for a very bad movie going experience. Just the idea that that the magical Negro keeps white people happy so they're safe. There's so much to that I just don't buy and I don't believe in, that it makes it hard for me to give this movie credibility. The other thing is when Aaron is this awkward kid who feels unseen at his art exhibit, he has to blame white people for the way he is.
Exactly.
White people is the reason he's awkward. White people are the reason he's gangly and tall and doesn't have a healthy self-esteem. You have to buy into that for this entire movie to work, and I just couldn't buy into that.
And not to mention how unlikable that here, at least the character was. I mean, I haven't seen that actor in other films, so I'm not going to judge his work. Yeah. I don't know if he's a good actor or a bad actor, to be honest with you. But
I mean, he's fine. I don't remember anything bad he's done. But the Lizzie character was much more charismatic than he was.
Yeah,
right.
That was the character you want to root for.
She was the only likable thing about the film, which is weird to say about a movie about magical black people.
Right. Look,
there's sound going on in the background.
Sorry, what?
I'm hearing some kind of sound in the background.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't know what that is. I don't hear it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, chat's commenting on it too.
There is a sound in the background. I don't hear it.
Okay.
I heard it, but I don't know where it's coming from. I'm checking my computer. I don't see anything open on my end.
I'm prepping my next sec. Sorry, I'm doing something. You're right. Yeah. Okay. It's an OS system sonar. Okay. I don't hear it. I hear it.
Okay, it's gone now. But yeah, I was hearing it.
All right. Look, I'm all for funny. To me, Blazing Saddles might be the best comedy ever about race.
Yep. I agree.
Richard Pryor was one of the writers on it. It just totally is. And also the reason it gets big laughs, comedy comes from truth. And I think that a lot of the arguments in current day about a lot of the ills of society are dishonest. They are just straight up dishonest. So what the movie does is the movie makes certain assumptions about how, quote, everyone thinks and sort of hangs all the jokes on that, except everyone doesn't think this way. And that's why so much of the movie comes off as, frankly, awkward. It comes off as awkward.
But also, it just felt like this movie didn't want to commit to anything, right? Like, if you're going to do this, you got to lean in hard. You got to just be like, okay, we're doing a movie about magical black people, right? And just lean into that. But it literally started out that way and just became a completely different weird movie. Well, again, and not about black people, about a weird Gen Zer who's awkward and there was never any growth from him,
Mhm.
like ever throughout the film, because there was a point where he gets accepted into the society, and you never see him actually go all in. You know what I mean? You never see him become, the guy who's good at his job, who's making all these different white people happy. They just leaned into this one love story, and it became a completely different film.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? The problem with the movie is that it assumes you buy into its premise.
Yes.
And so it got lazy about it because now all the jokes being made are being made from a standpoint that you believe white people are the most evil race in the world, and that for minorities in America, we're always being kept down because of white people. And unless you believe that, then none of these jokes, so-called jokes, works. And this is ultimately why I think this movie will fail. I as much as the media likes to push this narrative on us, I think most of us don't believe that. I don't know. How full was your screening? I'm just curious.
When I got the tickets originally for Dante and I, it was like 5 people in the theater, and it was actually maybe 20% full, 25%. I mean, it was
it wasn't full, but there were more people there than I thought there would be.
Yeah, I mean, look, I consider it full when every seat is taken except the first 2 rows, the front.
Right.
Oh yeah, not even close.
And
not
mine
even
was
close.
full. Mine was full, and I think the audience was half African American, half black. I'll just say it that way.
Wait, your screening was full?
Yeah, it was.
And
That's
so
surprising.
It wasn't a big theater. It wasn't the big theater, but at least 100 seats.
Wow, surprising.
Yeah.
I question, Hollywood used to at least espouse a morality that we could all agree upon, right? We could all agree upon like
racism bad.
Huh?
Like racism bad,
Racism is bad. That's sort of like, I think that the majority of people have that opinion.
But you know what, Chris? They weren't preachy back then. They're preachy
Right.
now. This movie was preachy.
Yeah.
It was so preachy. That final speech is what lost me. The final speech was just like, I mean, look, it lost me just because it was like just not working. The concept didn't work, but it made me miss, like, I got in a whole conversation with Sin's Corner's brother, Tim. We were talking about the movie The Postman. And like how, look, I don't know what people think about the movie The Postman with Kevin Costner. It's going to be a stretch for me to make this relate to it, but I'll say this, that the thing I liked about the movie was the lead character who was patriotic. He wanted to bring a semblance of America back by delivering mail to bring back some civilization. He was self-sacrificing. He had all these sort of, you could call him check boxes of being a hero. He cared more about others than he did about himself. I remember just like, we don't have heroes like this now. The heroes of today, characters like Justice Smith, he was willing to just destroy the entire society and all the quote good, whatever you think in the fictional world of the movie that they did good. He just wanted to wipe that away because he was so selfish. He wanted to be with a girl.
But that's Gen Z.
Gen Z is so
That's
selfish.
Gen Z.
They don't, this is not a hero you look up to. These are characters that are not likable. Not only was the lead character, Aaron, played by Justice Smith, unlikable, the guy he was supposed to help was equally unlikable. He was like a villain from an 80s teen comedy.
But so it's also like what Alan said, though. It's like, this guy, let's just be real. He wasn't a manly guy, right? I mean, he just wasn't. Like on any kind of level, he's like a typical femme Gen Z kind of guy. And instead of just saying it's okay, if he'd have made some kind of character growth towards the end where he becomes this confident guy, that would have been kind of cool, right? But the continual blaming of white people for why he is the way he is, it made no sense, right? It made no sense. You're that way because you're that way, not because white people made you that way.
Because I hate to break it to you, white people, I've met white people who felt awkward about themselves, who felt like they didn't belong, who had low self-esteem. It's not, this is not these are not feelings and emotions that are strictly reserved for minorities. Everyone feels these things, and that's why that speech at the end, that speech doesn't apply just to Black people.
No,
the
at
Barbie
all.
speech, everything that America Ferrera says in the Barbie speech doesn't apply strictly to women. Men feel that way. White people feel that way. Everyone feels that way. That's, in fact, if you're human, at some point you're going to feel these ways, and you're not going to grow if you don't personally learn for yourself to overcome these things. Instead, if you're going to start blaming other people for your perceived weaknesses, then you'll never grow in life.
Well, it goes back to the Spider-Man, right? For me, it's the, oh, we need Spider-Man to be Black now so he could represent, young Black kids today, as if young Black kids back in the day couldn't relate to Peter Parker being weird in high school, being the outsider in high school, being the guy who couldn't get the girl, like we couldn't relate to that character, right? We couldn't relate to Peter Parker because he's white. It makes zero sense.
That was the whole point of Peter Parker, was that he was an awkward teen who got superpowers, and that was basically the first 200 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, exploring those kind of ideas, where he ultimately finds his confidence over time and not from the start. He was not a confident kid at the very beginning,
right? And he was white, so why wasn't he super confident? Because all white people are super confident, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, he was a nerd, and other nerds of every color and culture could relate to Peter Parker.
Well, because Peter Parker was poor. He had
and
to
poor,
work.
Yes,
he had no parents.
Yeah,
his parents were dead.
He had no parents. His aunt and uncle were taking care of him. He was effectively an orphan. Then, he was poor. He had to work a job, while he was in college. He was a nerd. He was
bullied by the football players.
Yeah. Like, exactly.
Oh, and by the way, in the Black community, man, especially like 70s, 80s, well, more in the 80s, there was a big influx of Black kids being raised by their grandparents because their parents were, out of commission. I was raised by my grandparents. So the fact that Peter Parker was being raised by his aunt was even more relatable to black kids during that time.
Yeah, it's all right. So we have the chat is on fire. So we're going to get to our chat comments and questions, but sort of bottom line, final thoughts. We are going to continue because we have so many chat comments. Final thoughts. I'll just say this. I can't recommend this movie. I think it does a disservice to the current conversation about race. And I personally believe the current conversation about race is completely dishonest, at least as framed by the mainstream media. And this movie doesn't help anything. It doesn't help advance that conversation. If anything, it continues to promote bad ideas, and it's insecure Gen Z low-key racism. That's what this film is. Final thoughts from you guys, and I can't recommend it.
I mean, I'll just add that it's all rooted in critical race theory. Just the idea that white people are inherently racist, and that there's, if your skin is white, you're racist, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's exactly what this movie is. Yeah, purport. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Look.
No, I'm sorry. My apologies, Alan. My apologies. Dante, your final thoughts, and we're gonna
really quick. So for me, if you guys are expecting some kind of well thought out commentary on today's social issues, then you're going to be disappointed. If you're expecting just an entertaining movie, you're going to be disappointed. If you're expecting intelligent writing, you're going to be disappointed. So absolutely not. Don't watch this film unless you have just hours of your life to waste, or if you're Gen Z and you can relate to what this movie is about, then fine, go watch it. But this movie, again, I'm still going to keep asking this question: who is it for? Because it's not for Black people.
And but the special effects are pretty good, and if you are into making yarn shirts, you're gonna love it.
By the way, did you notice how clean LA was?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the other thing we were commenting on the movie, was like, oh wow, they're showing parts of LA you don't normally see, like the Arts District. It didn't show.
I'm sorry, we're talking the east side of downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah.
That's primarily where this entire movie was shot.
Right.
It's
right.
very clean. I suppose it was shot during COVID. That's why it was clean.
Yeah. Hey, so that's the bottom line on the movie. Real quick, we're gonna go to chat, comments, and questions. Dante, do I have your permission to wear that thing I showed you? Just during the comments?
Wait, which thing?
You know what I'm talking about. All right. Okay. Hey, Alan.
Yeah.
I
start reading
can't.
the-
You want me to give you permission?
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what, Chris? I'm blanking right now, but I give you full permission.
Okay, great. All right.
All right. Oh, yeah.
All right. Hang on a sec. I gotta
Oh,
go
Chris.
full. Here we go.
Yes.
Yeah, folks. I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go. Let's get those super chats. Here we go. All right.